Hello, 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 everyone. If you can hear me well, could you please put a plus in the chat box? Perfect. Great, great. Okay. Let us have a couple of minutes for people to enter the webinar platform, and we are ready to start. Meanwhile, could I ask you to put in the chat box the name of the city where you are from? Yes, and let's see the geography. Oh, I see Tashkent, Shymkent, Termez, Almaty, Pavlodar, Samarkand, Fergana. Okay. Is anybody from Osh in Kyrgyzstan? I wonder. Kyrgyzstan is here, yes. I am asking because my grandfather is from Osh in Kyrgyzstan. That's why I have some special feelings about this city. Okay, I see some people from Osh. Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Okay. Let's have just a couple of minutes and we'll start. Yes. Hello, Disa. Hello, hello. Okay. Good. Uzbekistan. Good. Andijan. Oh, Armenia. Great. Hello, hello. Armenia and India. Perfect. Kazakhstan. Uzbekistan. Samarkand in Uzbekistan. Great. Okay. Osh, yes. Lovely to see you all. Hello, Alex. How are you?
Hi, everyone. Hi.
Okay, good. People are coming. Great. Good. Okay. Sunny Yerevan. That's great. Good. It's pretty cold here in Moscow. Yeah.
The same here in the south, Yelena, unfortunately. Gray and gloomy.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Great. So, shall we start, Alex? So, people are coming. We have some news,
Sure.
some updates. Perfect. Hello again, and welcome to the second day of our conference. So, for those who don't know me, my name is Yelena, and I'm going to be your moderator today. And I'm a country manager for Armenia, Belarus, Central Asia, and Russia at Cambridge University Press and Assessment. So first of all, thanks a lot for taking the time to join us today as we talk today about Cambridge English qualifications. So we'll share some tips in our virtual conference that will definitely help you to prepare better for Cambridge C1 Advanced. And we also will be talking about Linguaskill test. And what is very interesting and exciting, we will have a better look at Cambridge Professional Development online courses, because from the yesterday's meetings there were so many questions about different methodological online courses. Right, so let's start our Cambridge journey like no other and become a teacher you want to be. Before we start, over to Alex with some housekeeping.
Thank you, Elena. So my name is Alex. I'm a customer services support manager at our representative office. And here are a few reminders for you on housekeeping. First of all, we hope you have no troubles with your internet connection. If you are running several programs, you have several tabs open in your browser. To avoid any technical issues, we recommend to close them. And you may also want to unplug any devices you are not wanting to use for the next 2 hours. If the video appears fuzzy or there's no picture at all or the sound quality drops, you may need to refresh or try another browser. We strongly recommend using Chrome, but Firefox is a very good alternative. Please feel free to provide your feedback in the chat box. But if you have any questions, please kindly type them in the question box so that we do not miss anything at the end of the conference. The session is recorded and we'll be happy to share all the materials with you, including the recording, early next week. Thanks a lot. Back to you, Yelena.
Thanks, Alex. Good. Just some reminders and what is coming soon that we're especially organizing for teachers in Armenia and Central Asia. So the first one, that is in November, Cambridge University Press and Assessment are inviting you to participate in our Cambridge English Teacher Competition, where teachers will need to complete an online test. And this test consists of 60 multiple choice TKT questions, and you will have just 60 minutes to take this test. And the final part will be in the C1 advanced format. That's our first event. And for January, we are having plans to have a series of webinars about TKT. So that will be a 3-day training for teachers who are interested not only in professional development, but who would like to learn more about 3 TKT core modules. So we definitely will be sending our invitations shortly, but if you want to be the first to learn all the news regarding Cambridge, please join our Telegram channel that actually delivers latest news on all our current events. So I see the questions in the chat box. If everything is free, yes, absolutely free for you, my dear teachers. Everything is free. All the conferences, all the competitions and teacher trainings are free. Okay. So let's start. I think that we can see Claire now. Claire, can you hear and see us well? Great. Great. So we are going to talk about our Cambridge C1 Advanced exam. That is an excellent qualification if you are thinking about improving your language skills as a teacher. And let's together with Claire, our teacher trainer, our Cambridge presenter, our CELTA trainer, our examiner. Can I say that? No, I can't.
No, you know perfectly well you cannot.
I cannot, so I'm not telling that anyway. Okay, so let's use the advice of our Cambridge teacher trainer. Over to you, Claire.
Thank you, and thank you, Alex, for that wonderful introduction. Okay, hi everybody, hello. How are we doing today? If you're new in, anyone who didn't come yesterday, can you just say hi in the chat box for me? Okay, yeah, good evening. Yeah, it's a sunny afternoon here, not that far from Berlin, 15 degrees. It's a little bit windy, but well, hey. We're waiting for the last leaves to come down. Hi there. Good. Excellent. Okay. So if you were with us yesterday, you will remember that I started out by saying 2 things. First of all, I don't read my slides because you can. And second, I'm expecting you to talk to me through the chat box, and I will keep an eye on it. So anything, any questions that come up, please put them straight there or in the question box at the top of your screen. And if I ask you a question, I am expecting an answer. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so, right, we're going to be talking about that lot. And the first thing I'd like you to tell me, how many of you have ever done a Cambridge Assessment English exam? So B1 first, C1 advanced, C2 proficiency, anything. In the chat box, please, if you've ever done a Cambridge Assessment English exam. Only IELTS. Yeah, IELTS. IELTS is no. IELTS doesn't count. I'll tell you why. Because IELTS aims to establish your level of English at any given point in time. It is not developmental. So you go, you do, you get your certificate, and all preparation courses for IELTS basically focus on how to do this task, how to do that task. If you're doing Cambridge assessment exams, then you'll find that generally the whole thing is much more developmental, because we start at a certain point and we can dig and really help you to develop your language and your skills in the language. All right. So yeah, lots of people saying IELTS only. Seriously? Anyway. GKT is a very good place to start. But you know, well, yeah, Mary, if you had IELTS, fine. It would depend on your score. And I think the thing that we're talking about here is if you're thinking about how to improve your English and improving our English for all of us, and I include myself in that, because, well, sometimes it's a bit distressing, frankly. And they keep inventing new words, and they keep, you know, the phraseology changes. So I have a couple of nieces, they're around 20. I don't understand a word they say, different language. So we all need to keep developing, we all need to keep learning. And I think preparing for Cambridge assessment exams is a very, very good way of doing that, basically. CELTA, those of you who've done CELTA will remember it's not a language development course though, is it? They expect you to be a very good C1 before you start. Okay, right, so that was my first question. I have more questions. Okay, I'm trying to keep ahead of myself. I have a second computer telling me what I'm doing next. Okay, so I'm going to start with a quick quiz. In the chat box, how much do you know about C1 Advanced? So let's start with how many different papers or different parts of the test are there? How many different papers? Well done. Someone's just said they have C1. Woohoo. 4, I'm getting in there. Oh, wow, Murray's doing very well. He's got the whole entire range. Woohoo. Okay, I've got people saying 3 or 4. Okay, gonna help you out there. There are 4 papers. Reading, writing, listening. Yeah, but you've got 5 there, 4 papers. So what other 4 papers? Yeah, we have obviously 4 papers. Yeah, 4 papers. All of the skills, that is very true, because we do need to test all of the skills. But with reading, we've also got use of English in there. Okay, so there are 4 papers: reading and use of English, writing, listening, speaking. Exactly. So reading plus use of English there. Okay, right. And exactly same as all of the Cambridge exams. Indeed, because there's this progression, and why do something differently? Now you can see a bit of a table there, and you can see some pretty colorful bits and pieces. Let's see whether you can fill in the gaps. So reading and use of English. It's an hour and a half. How many tasks or parts are there? And how many questions are there? So how many parts for reading and use of English are there at C1 Advanced? How many questions are there in total? 60 plus, okay. Really, so many? I think these are all about the questions, so the number of items, questions, okay. How many different parts are there to the test? 5, okay. 4, that's an optimist. I like optimists. I think optimists are wonderful, wonderful people. There's somebody saying 2, even bigger optimist there, but never mind. Okay, 4. Nah, you remember it's reading and use of English. So there may be some more. In fact, there are generally 8 parts to that particular test, and there are 56 questions. I'm going to show you the answers in just a minute. Don't panic. Writing. How long is the writing test? And how many tasks are there in the writing test? An hour? Well, you'd have to write really, really quickly. There are 2 tasks. Yeah, everyone seems to be agreed on that. 90 minutes, says Eleanor there. 120 minutes, there's someone just being very, very optimistic. 30 minutes? You want 30 minutes to write 2 different pieces of writing? Seriously? Okay, I think we're going to agree on 90 minutes, so 1 hour and 30. And yes, there are 2 tasks to be written. Okay. Listening is approximately 40 minutes, we know that, and it says there are 4 parts, we know that as well. How many questions are there? How many questions are there? 40? 30? Somebody said 30, but more 30, 60? 60? Ay. 12. 40 minutes and only 12 questions. Someone saying listening 40, 25. This is fun. Okay, there are 30 questions, indeed, 30 questions in the 4 parts. Okay, and speaking. So we know there are 4 parts to the speaking. How long is the speaking test? How long is the speaking test? Yeah, 10 minutes. Somebody's being very optimistic again. 30 minutes, good grief. Did somebody just type 40 minutes? Do you want to do a speaking test for 40 minutes? Wow. Okay, there it is. You can see the answers on your screen right now. Okay, and remember that speaking test, okay? How many examiners are there for speaking? 1, 2, or 3? How many examiners? Give people options, they'll go for all of them. Yeah, in IELTS there's only 1, but remember IELTS is recorded. Cambridge assessment is English exams, speaking exams are not recorded, and there are 2 examiners. How many candidates? Is it just you, or do you have a partner? Yeah, Serena has it exactly. There are 2 candidates, 2 examiners and 2 candidates. All right. Okay, and that speaking test is not always on the same day as the other 3. Yeah, the other 3 are always on the same day. They start with reading, use of English, you move into writing, you have listening, and hopefully a break in between some of them, but not a very long break. Okay, now in the chat box, I'd like you to type for me what you think are the most challenging of these 4 papers. Which of these 4 papers are the most challenging? Or if you have already done C1 Advanced or you've done IELTS, think back to your certificate and what were the papers where you scored the lowest? Okay, I like Gulvira, reading and listening, writing, okay, fair enough. Use of English, oops, sorry, I got something flying around at me. Okay, that's an ex-mosquito, we like ex-mosquitoes. Okay, yeah, wow, yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people are coming up with reading and listening, yeah, absolutely. Many teachers think that writing is the most difficult, but it's also the easiest to really prepare for. If you look at the different types of tasks, the different genres, then it's actually easier to prepare for because you have lots and lots of models. Reading and listening are absolutely the most challenging, and you'll be able to see that in the results. Right. What do C1 learners need to be able to do in terms of reading and the sub-skills of reading? Excuse me, got to keep lubricated. There's a little problem with the reading. Oh dear. All right. They need to understand, okay? They need to have some knowledge of English. Well, that seems reasonable given that this is C1 and this is advanced. But if we think of the sub-skills of reading, do we read everything in the same way? Oh, a bunch of understanding. Oh, well, that's different. Thank you. It's lovely. Okay, true or false comprehension. We don't read it all. Do you not? Maybe that's why it's so difficult. Okay, so look at all of these things. So at C1, yeah, you need to be able to do these things. And what do we mean by skim read? So when you have a chance, sit down, you look at a magazine or you look at the newspaper, whether it's a physical magazine or whether it's online, and you look at it, okay? So I've just found in my paper, my letterbox, Germans keep sending out free newspapers. I can't stop them. So I've just found this, okay, which, setting aside the fact that it's in German, okay, yeah, am I going to read it? I'm going to start here, and am I going to read every single word? Or am I actually going to read it quite quickly, just let my eyes go and go, oh, that's not interesting, not going to bother. That would be skim reading. Okay, so skim reading is when we look at an article or a piece of writing for whatever reason, and we need to decide whether we really want to read it in more depth or not. Most of the time we don't, and this is a basic skill. If you think about reading in your own language, you do not ever start with the very first word and just go along the line there and put it all together very nicely and make sure you understand everything before you move on. You don't do that in your first language. So why should you do that in English? Yeah? So we need to be able to skim read, yeah? To get an overview, we sometimes say. We also need to be able to read for details. So we need to be able to read in some depth so that we can find out more about what's going on. That's usually the second or the third way that we read. Okay, so if we're reading, for example, scientific articles, some people do apparently, or if we're reading a novel, or if we're reading any other reference material, and we do that quite often, then yes, okay, in the first instance, we need to get an overview. But then, especially with when we're reading novels, you don't skim read. Novels, you sit down and you read it because you do need to understand. You need to understand the characters, you need to understand where it's coming from, you need to understand the plot and all of the subplots. So we read a lot more closely, and we call this reading for detail. Another thing that we do, we have to find location, we have to find information, specific information in a longer text. So imagine, for example, you're looking at the theatre program for the next month. Okay, are you going to read that theatre program in great detail? Or are you going to perhaps look for what's on? You have friends coming. You have friends coming on the 20th of December. Are you going to read the whole month in great detail? Or are you going to 20th of December and read that line? Okay. So we call that, what do we call that? Anybody? If we have skim reading, close reading, what is the one where we're just reading, scanning? Thank you there, Maria. Well done, well done. Okay, so we need to be able to skim read, to close read for detail, also to scan read. And finally, we do need to be able to follow instructions. And you know, this sounds simple and quite basic. And I did hear Katja say that yesterday when she was talking about her TKT. But the first thing that you do, you think you know what's going to happen, so you don't read the instructions. Yeah? And that's when problems start occurring. Yeah, we know that teenagers never read instructions, but I think we're all guilty of it, really, aren't we? Okay, let's move on down here. So we're doing all of that, but we're reading also for specific information. Specific information is which one? Skim reading, scanning, or close reading? Specific information, which one is that? Scanning in general, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you scan the bus timetable. You scan in the supermarket, you scan a packet of whatever it is through the ingredients to see if there's anything in there that anybody in your family cannot eat or is allergic to, for example. So this is quite important. We have to look for text organization features, so how texts hang together. It's not just sentences, is it? It's the use of various text devices that make us think, oh, this is a nicely written piece, but do I really understand it? We have to be able to understand it also when people don't write what they mean to say. And we all do that, don't we? Sometimes it's not a good idea to write specifically what we want to say. There are many instances where that, in many parts of the world, where that is frankly not a good idea. And so we say something or we write something and we imply something else. And at C1 level, we must be able to understand that implication, not just take words at face value or sentences at face value. We must be able to read between the lines, as they say. And that's what we call implication. Tone is another good thing, isn't it? Because, okay, when people talk to you in general, and okay, it varies from culture to culture, tone varies a lot from culture to culture, but in general, we can understand just by listening to the sound of a person's voice, whether they're happy or sad or angry or largely apathetic. Okay, we can hear that through the tone, and that's very important also when we read, because we can convey tone in writing. It can be challenging to find, but that's why we're all C1 advanced, aren't we? And of course, the structure of a text, so that we know where to expect whatever we want to find, because that's also very important. So there are one or two things about this reading which are quite tricky, and let's be honest, people, when you were in school, however recently or however long ago that was, in my case, somewhere in the middle of the 19th century, I think, back in the Dark Ages, when you were in school and you were learning English or any other foreign language, in my case it was French, did your teachers stop to actively help you understand skimming, scanning, close reading, reading to infer meaning? Did any of your teachers ever do that? No. Yeah. My teachers didn't either. I learned various different languages in school and at university. It just really didn't happen. There was, back in the Dark Ages, in fairness, methodologically speaking, not a real understanding that we needed to do this. But we now know that, if we want people to read and to listen effectively, we must help them. We must clarify how to read, and we can do that in various different ways. Now, I don't have, sadly, time to go into the ins and outs of reading. So what I've brought for you instead is one of the task types, okay? Now, this is the multiple choice. So you remember, multiple choice is a popular task. Pretty much every exam around the world has multiple choice. In this case, you get a whole text and you have 4 choices for each question. Now that's challenging. What is your first thought if you look at a whole text and then you've got 6 questions and 4 options for each question? What is your first thought? Waiting for people to share their first thoughts with me. Okay, someone's given you Okay. It's too long. Thank you there, Byron. Yeah. Yeah, you're in a bit of a hurry. It's tiring. I agree with you there, Fatima. It's very tiring. Oh, you're confused. Well, that's, yeah. Nobody's written panic yet, which is good. I'm very pleased to hear that you don't panic, but I think many people would just look at the sheer amount of text on the page and go, and then move on. Shocked sometimes. Thank you, Fatima. Yes. And then move on to reading the questions. Now, I'm going to go through one way of possibly approaching this. Yeah. So you can see here you've got an introduction to a book about the history of color. And you've got the first paragraph. Remember that in Cambridge tests in general, the questions for a piece of reading or a piece of listening will generally come in the order in which the answers appear in the text. Okay, so in the case of this particular task, it's usually one paragraph, one question. Okay, your mind stops thinking, well, yeah, that's a problem though, isn't it? You don't really have time to jigstart your mind, do you? So we're going to think about ways of doing this. You get a question and you get 4 alternatives. What would you usually do, people? Would you read the question? Would you start with the alternatives? Or would you go to the text? Just like in IELTS, Sania, yes, absolutely. You read the question, okay. Looking at the title is always a good thing because then your mind goes, everyone's reading the question. Some people are reading what MCI assume is the multiple choice, the answers. Everyone's starting, a lot of people starting with the answers. Okay, question and alternatives and then text. Maria, interesting. I think on balance, that's what most people would automatically tend to do. Let me give you an alternative here. I'm going to ask you to quickly read that paragraph and find the answer to that question. I'm not going to give you the alternatives just yet. I will give you them, but not just yet. Find the answer to that question. What problem regarding color does the writer explain in that paragraph? I'm going to give you a minute and I will stop talking. Okay, that's historical context. Yeah, good point there. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name without thinking about it for a very long time. I apologize for that. So somebody's saying historic transcultural truth. Yeah, okay. So we've got historical context, we've got this transcultural truth. Do we have transcultural truth or do we not? Yeah, changing role of color. Okay, changing for what reason? Is that just because we keep changing our minds about color, or is it because different people think differently about color? Talks about a lack of books, but that doesn't really answer the question, does it? Okay, so myths about color. I'm going to give you now the first, and what I'd like, this is the first option. Okay, all I want you to do is to read the option. Does it match the answer that you found to the question? Yes or no? Okay, and you see how quickly we could just reject that one. Isn't that amazing? Because we've thought about the answer, possible answer to the question. Okay, so now let's have a look at the second one. It might, I suspect Mariah is something of a skeptic, which is fine. We all need to question everything. So number B, does it match with your first ideas or your answers to that question? Not really. Okay, good. Right, let's move on. What about C? Does that match your perception of the answer to the question? Yeah, I know people are still answering B. Okay, so quite a few you seem to think that C is doing a lot better. All right, let's move on to the final option, because one should always read all of the options. What about that one? D. Does D come anywhere close to answering our question? Okay, I'm waiting because I know that it takes a little while for people to. Exactly. No, yes. Oh, it's interesting. A lot of you seem to think that C is the correct answer. All right. So shall we have a look? And yes, it is. Absolutely. Okay. It talked about color is a social phenomenon. Social tends to translate into cultural, and it says there's no transcultural truth to color perception, which means that we all think of color differently. We all perceive colors differently, and different cultures also perceive different colors differently. Yeah, think of some cultures have so many shades of blue that it's really quite impressive, but that's important for them, so that's why they have them. Okay, so, and if you think about it now, going backwards, okay, so you read the paragraph, you read the question, your brains processed what you thought might be an answer, so that you could quite easily reject incorrect alternatives. And it's not, I'm not saying it's going to work every time, and maybe it doesn't work for all of you, but for many people, that is one way of approaching it. I know it's difficult when you're confronted with a whole text and then all of these questions, but try and look at it, if you will. Cover on your test paper, cover the alternatives, and just look at that one question. Go back, okay, and see if you can find a possible answer, and then read the alternatives carefully one by one, so that you can reject or not immediately. It will save you a little bit of time. And also, if you simply cannot find an answer, if your mind just goes blah, and you cannot find an answer, any of the four that you think are particularly helpful, move on. Move on. Don't waste too much time getting stuck over the one question, yeah? Because remember, a test is all about getting points. And for this particular task, there are 2 points for each correct answer. Out of, I can't remember how many there are 56 questions, points more than that. So, you know, it's not really worth getting that hung up on the one question. Okay, right. It's quite an interesting paragraph. I quite agree with you there, Zareen. It is quite interesting. Okay. Now, I'm going to move on to listening, because quite a few of you also decided that listening was not all it was cut out to be. Listening can be very challenging, because again, when I was at school back in the dark ages, yeah, most of my teachers, my language teachers, tended to treat listening as a test. Here's a question, now listen, answer your question. You can get it, yoo-hoo. You didn't get the right answer, you're stupid. And they moved on. And that's not really a very positive way to do things. Setting aside the things that we talked about, Fatima, I'm sorry to hear that. But let's think about why. Okay. Shahnoza, no. The answer to any particular reading question can be anywhere in that particular paragraph. Listening. Okay, so setting aside the fact that we do listen in different ways. We can listen sort of very tangentially just to get what's going on, and then if we hear specific words, we go, oh, let's listen. Yeah, or we can sit down and we can watch a TV show or a film that's really, really interesting. It's going to get, keep our attention, so we're listening quite intensively. If you're talking to your family and friends, you may think you're listening intensively, but are you really? Or does your brain automatically also pick up on words and put the rest of the question or the sentence together automatically? It's part of the problem. You zone out, oh dear. You can make predictions, always a way to go, but one of the biggest problems with listening is what I like to call connected speech, so the phonology. Yeah? When we speak, do we clearly enunciate every single syllable? Yeah, and I think we have to agree that no, we don't. So is it possible that while we're listening, we may miss certain things? Because accents, details, accents are vowel sounds. Our brains are so quick, actually, to pick up on different sounds, different individual sounds. That's really not the problem. Problem is that as teachers, very often, we don't focus enough on things like linking, like assimilation, when the sound actually changes and becomes a different sound, like elision, like all sorts of things that help us with our listening. We do this naturally in our own languages. We don't do this naturally in a foreign language. Why should we? And how can we if nobody has ever taught us to do that? So that's the thing, yeah. That maybe your learners are visual, but on the other hand, yeah, there's nothing wrong with dissecting, for example, a TV clip or a film clip, because you've got the pictures and you've got the dialogue, and see if you can work with it in that way. However, multiple matching, part 4, the last part of the listening. Everybody hates this part. Well, except for me, because I think it's actually quite fun. But then I am very strange. Okay, you can see on the left-hand side some sentences about this task. And you can also see some gaps. So let's think about these gaps. Yeah, multiple choice, always. This is not multiple choice, this is multiple matching. You have that in reading as well, but in listening, multiple matching is about listening and trying to do two things at the same time. Yoo-hoo. So let's think of these sentences. You have to do tasks at the same time. You have to do several. Several. Yeah, matching is not so easy. People are saying two. Oi, Mary's showing off there. You got 9.0 listening. Well done. Good for you. Congratulations. Which is actually very challenging. A lot of native speakers wouldn't get 9.0 in listening because they don't listen properly. But there are two, yeah. You hear 5 different speakers. Somebody's ahead of me there, and with a certain amount of reason. You hear 5 different speakers. You have to choose from how many options? Multiple options is not a number. There are, some people are already typing, there are 8 options for each task. So you're going to hear 5 different speakers. You have to choose from those 8 options for 2 different tasks at the same time. Yoo-hoo. All the speakers talk on the same what? What? Pace? Oh, chance would be a fine thing. Topic, I'm getting. Yeah, exactly. Okay, there we go. Topic or theme. Absolutely, absolutely. Well done. Okay, so this is actually quite challenging, isn't it? Because again, you're listening for gist, for attitude, all of these things that you can see on your screen right now, okay? And it can be very, very challenging if we haven't had enough preparation. Okay, right. There are 10 questions, 1 point for each correct question. And how many times will you hear this? Will you hear this, for example, will you hear each monologue twice, then the next one, then the next one, then the next one? Or will you hear all 5 monologues and all 5 monologues the second time? What do you think? Will you hear all 5 monologues, or will you hear 1 twice, 2 twice, 3 twice, 4 twice? Gracia saying, yeah. Oh, Murray's an optimist. I do like optimists. But yes, all twice, exactly. So you hear all 5. You're trying to answer all 10 questions. Then you have a tiny break to think about it. And then again, you hear all 5, where you will check the answers you're fairly certain of, and you will look for the answers that you're not at all certain of. Okay, right. So that's actually better than IELTS, because as I recall in IELTS, you only hear everything once. Exactly. Thank you, Mary. It is a lot better than in IELTS. I quite agree with you. Okay. So remember, you've got to do both things at the same time. So while you're waiting, so they will announce part 4, sorry, and you will hear blah, blah, blah. You now have so and so many seconds to read the questions. Okay. So, and of course, you can assume that they're not going to use the words given to you here in the same way. And there will be distractors. So somebody may talk about disagreements, but it doesn't have to be necessarily disagreements with superiors. It can be disagreements with peers. Somebody else can be talking about holiday, and it could be referring to public holidays or whatever, and so on and so forth. So we've got to be very, very careful about that. Okay, and in the purple box you can see, actually, and unfortunately, this is the only part of the test where the answers do not come in sequence. Task 2 answer may well come before the task 1 answer as you hear it. That is a bummer. You see, right? There's something, I'm not sure if I'm saying your name correctly there, but yeah, there's maybe a reason to do C1 or C2 again. Okay, yes, really. Sorry, Rosa, really. Sorry about that. Okay, so very, very quickly, because I know I'm running out of time, and I do apologize for that. Okay, we're going to have a little think about this. We can start, and we can, when we prepare also, we need to prepare this again and again and again so that we can think of these things more quickly. Okay, so the task 2 up there said choose from the list what each speaker feels about their new job. So feels about their new job. What kind of adjectives might you hear in those questions? What kind of adjectives might you hear in those when the people are talking about new job? How do you feel about new job? Nervous, nice. Yes, nice idea. Okay. Excited. Oh, stressed. Okay, right. Frustrated. You haven't even started yet. Why should you be frustrated? Bewildered. Valerie, that is a lovely, lovely adjective. I like that. Depressed. Depressed because you've even started. Thrilled to bits. Oh, lovely. Okay. Responsible. Okay. Yeah, we're still talking about the C1 advanced listening there. Somebody's just asked. Awful. Oh dear. Shy. Fascinated. It's not Linguaskill. C1 advanced. Okay. The picture shouldn't be blurred. If it is blurred, then you probably need to refresh your browser. Butterfly, says Asia. Wow. You see all of these adjectives that you've just come up with, and now let's try and match some of those adjectives with the options that you have. Okay. Yeah, we had happy. We had something else. Okay. Yeah, grateful. Somebody had great. Furious. Fatima is furious because she's starting a new job. Interesting way of looking at it. Exhausted. Well, that's, yeah, possibly. I think so. Yeah. Okay. So, and if we then move on to thinking about how to prepare for that. Okay, look at this idea. So taking some of the adjectives here, we can make the nouns: gratitude, hope, delight, relief, and satisfaction. Okay, so now when you're preparing, why not sit there and think, okay, when did I last feel gratitude? Okay, and just talk to yourself. Or if there's a group of you, talk to each other. There are two advantages to this. It helps your mind move more quickly. The more often you talk about certain things and you just keep going, you're talking about these things, the easier it becomes during the exam, because we know the exam, you're under added pressure. But if you've done proper preparation repeatedly, and preparation in terms of, okay, grateful, I feel grateful. When did I last feel grateful? Gratitude. Well, do you know, gratitude is a very interesting thing. And the last time I was grateful was when I got on a train in France on Saturday morning, and the train was quite full. And of course, I didn't get on in the first station, and therefore there was nowhere for me to put my big suitcase. And I was very, very grateful to the passenger sitting next to me, who moved some of her stuff and reorganized some of her stuff so that I could put my baggage in safety. Okay, think about things like this. If you prefer to write, then write. Just write. Don't think, just write. Okay, speed writing is one way to improve your writing as well. Okay, and it all helps to help you prepare for the test. Okay. For this particular part 4, listening, multiple matching, you can remember all of those things, which I am not going to read out because you can read on your own. Okay. What I will say is that it is a challenging task, but there are ways and means to practice and to prepare. Okay, by not just looking at it, but actually thinking about some of the words, by maybe talking or writing involving some of these words, or involving an experience with these words, which will help you with other parts of the test, will help you with the writing, will help you with the speaking. It's all about getting your mind used to using the language again, just so that you don't actually have to think about it. Yeah. On the CELTA course that I was mentioning yesterday in France, we had a wonderful lady who revealed to me only after 2 weeks of this course that she was terrified, or she had been terrified about actively having to use English to talk to people. And she said to me, Claire, we had a guy called Ali. I talked to Ali today, I'm very proud of myself. And I go, yay, why would you not talk to him? Because I was a little nervous, I was a little scared, I don't use my language enough. So that's my point. Keep talking, keep writing, keep listening, keep reading, keep doing everything in English. And you should be fine. Practice is so, so important. Indeed, indeed. And that brings me finally to the end of this particular section of your webinar. I'm sorry, Elena.
That's absolutely fine. Thanks a lot. Of course, I mean, C1 Advanced, such a great test, and I'm happy you just show some tips how to better prepare for B2 and C1. Thanks a lot, and I do hope we see you sometime later on.
Well, yeah, you never know.
Yes, thanks. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
See you. Okay. Right now, we are going to invite our next Cambridge presenter, Darren Perrett. Darren is an assessment expert at Cambridge University Press and Assessment with many, many years of experience. And if you want to prove to your university, employer, or maybe even to yourself what language skills you have, however, you don't have much time to wait, then Linguaskill from Cambridge definitely can help. Darren, over to you with Linguaskill.
Thank you very much. Many years of experience. I'm not that old, yo. I'm still young at heart. But yeah, thank you very much. I've been with Cambridge for a while now, and Linguaskill I started right back its very beginning, 5-6 years ago, we started to create Linguaskill as the future of assessments. So I'm pleased to be here today to talk about it and to promote it as a product which can sit alongside our Cambridge qualifications. It's a different test, although they are both proficiency tests, but hopefully you'll see that the benefits of Linguaskill as we go through this presentation. I'll try to answer questions as they go through, and if I miss any, please, I'll try and get them at the end. Okay, so Linguaskill, what is it like? Okay, can everyone see the screen? It's working, is it? Yes, right, okay, good. Linguaskill is a proficiency test which tests from pre-A1 through to C1 and above. It's a multi-level test and it's adaptive. I'll come on to more about that in a moment. But it can be taken online. It's on demand. You can take it whenever you like. You can take it from home securely. And again, I'll come on to talk about how and why you can do that. It's multi-level, like I said, from pre-A1 through to C1 and above. It uses adaptive testing technology. You get fast results, and it's got great reporting. It's not a paper-based test, obviously. It's a computer-based test, and it's not meant to replace qualifications. But nevertheless, it has a place in the mapping of what people require, especially at university level. Entrance to university and placements into schools and things like this. Okay, what is Linguaskill then? Many of you may already know this, but Linguaskill is made up of modules, and 3 modules. Listening and reading are combined together, and this includes the traditional kind of use of English, whether you've got the lexical grammatical structures being tested, and it's got a range of questions. They're not fixed in length, of course, because it's adaptive, so I can't tell you how many questions. I can tell you the range of questions, but not how many questions, because that depends on the person taking the test. And then you've got writing and speaking as well, and these can be taken independently. And as you can see there, the results for writing are within 12 hours and speaking within 48 hours. Writing is automarked, 100% automarked, but there is a human in the loop. And I'll come on to what that means in a moment. Sorry, someone's saying, could you share the previous slide again, please? This slide? Can everyone see that? Lena, can you see that? Is it okay? Is it working?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. Yep. So writing's 100% automarked. We've taken many years to create the automarker, but there's still a human in the loop. Okay. There's still a human who's involved with certain writings which don't meet the criteria for the automarker. The automarker looks at a writing script and it gives a confidence rating on its score. And then it spits it back out if it thinks it's not too confident about the score. And the human then looks at that and then gives it a score back for that specific script. But generally, we look at about 85 to 90% of all writings go through the automarker, all okay. And that gets better and better by the day. Now, some people question automarkers over humans. And there's obviously there's a good reason for that, and that some scripts which are not usual, the machines can't really pick them up. But for the majority of texts which go through automarkers, they're picked up reliably and accurately. Now, imagine a human's given 10 scripts to look at. A human will possibly give 3 or 4 different grades for those scripts. They won't all be the same, even if they are all the same, whereas the computer will give the same result every single time. So that's where you get the consistency with the automarker compared to the human, and more reliable results. Speaking, we're not quite there with speaking yet. So that's why results are within 48 hours. We have auto markers in place, but there definitely is still a human in the loop there for the majority of speaking responses. The speaking responses are, so there's like 5 different parts to the speaking. I'll come on to those in a moment. But the speaking responses are looked at by 3 different examiners. So one will have 2, one will have 2, and the other one will have 1 of them, for example. And then the results are combined for the 5 parts of the speaking test. This increases reliability and reduces that kind of examiner bias where they are maybe too optimistic, or they give the grades too high or too low. It kind of balances that out and gives a more reliable result there for the speaking test. Okay, let's move on. There are 2 test types, the Linguaskill General, and this is the test of general proficiency English, and Linguaskill Business. Linguaskill Business is replacing what used to be BEC, the Business English Certificate. And so I just got, looks like Duolingo. Can you tell me please how to write Linguaskill writing skill? It's not difficult, same as IELTS and people's past. Yeah, I'll come on to those in a moment. So the Linguaskill Business is replacing BEC, the Business English Certificate, which is being retired soon from Cambridge. And so this will be the only Business English certificate available to people around the world. But basically it's a different flavor. It's the same structure, the same technology behind it, but it's got different flavors within the test. The content is slightly oriented towards business as compared to general. Okay. Yes, teachers, general English is the preferred. Business English, Linguaskill Business used to be Bullats. So Bullats has been around for 15 years, 20 years probably, as an online adaptive test. And that got phased out for Linguaskill Business, but the content is very similar. Now, a lot of people take Bullats who are not really business people. For example, we used to sell a lot of Bullats to secretaries and people like maybe cleaners at a business because the firm wanted everyone to have business English. But that wasn't required, you know, that was the wrong test for the wrong people. So they should have had Linguaskill General rather than Linguaskill Business. Linguaskill Business is meant for the manager level people in the company who like to communicate in business English. Okay, so the content is different. Yes, Darren did say Linguaskill has replaced business other Cambridge English tests. Yes, I have said that, yes. Or it's been replaced at the moment. It's been phased out at the moment. Okay. Okay, let's move on to have a look at the test, shall we? I'm going to try and share my screen now so I can show you the test. Let's have a look. Right, okay. Okay, so this is the test. This is the test screen as you go in. This is the Linguaskill General test. And there's an initial screen where you put your headphones on, you test the microphone, see if you can hear things, etc. Normal kind of online tests. Introductory page where it tells you about what it is. And this is, for example, listening and reading. And then you click on Start to start the test. This is the listening test. And you click the right arrow. You see you can't click backwards once you've started here. You can only go forwards. And a change to Linguaskill this year. With Linguaskill, you used to be able to listen twice. Bear with me a moment. I can just hear it in my background. You used to be able to listen twice, and now you can listen twice, but you don't have the option for the play button. Before you had the play button option. So now it's just like qualifications, and that you just hear 2 lots of recordings back to back. And you pick the one that you like. You see, nice and clear, graphics are nice, and move on. And then you have, again, different task types. So you have the graphics task type, which is meant for lower levels. Then you have a text multiple choice task type like this. Again, this is only 3 options, so that's at the lower level. For the higher levels, you'd have 4 options to help with the difficulty of the task itself. And then you have a multi-item task, again, similar to what you have in qualifications. I'll come on to the academic option in a moment. Here you have multiple choice. This again, 3 options here. You see 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. But this is low level. At the higher level, you have 4 options, but 5 questions, 5 items for this particular task. And you will go through and answer parts of those different task types as you move through. This is just a sample test, by the way. So this is reading, okay? And if you click on the gap, hold on a second. Yes, you got to choose the correct answer. It's not coming up because I'm sharing the screen for some reason. Yeah, okay, and then you can go through and choose the answer that you want as you go through the test. Graphics, you've got the open close here, where you put the answer into the text, similar to what you have in qualifications as well. And yeah, here it is, like multiple choice close. You click on the gap and then you put the answer into the gap, whatever you think is correct. So movies very quickly became popular all over the world, I think is the answer there, possibly. And then you go through and yeah, choose the correct answer and move on. And here is a reading multiple choice task. Again, you've got these kind of multi-items stacked within there, and you choose the correct answer and the text. And it depends on the level, so A1, pre-A1 through to C1, okay? Okay, let me stop sharing, and hopefully I'll go back to that screen. I do, yeah, okay, we just did that. So, a little bit about multi-level tests and how they work, because we get asked this question quite a lot. So it's one test. What you have is we have one bank, what we call an item bank at Cambridge, basically a computer drive with lots of different tasks on, and the computer chooses the tasks that we tell it to choose, and it chooses the tasks depending on your level. So it's just one task, one test, but many tasks that can be chosen. And we have even special needs tests as well. Someone asked about academic earlier. There is going to be an academic test released soon. We're working on it. So within the next couple of years, there's going to be an academic version, which is going to be certificated. So it will sit alongside IELTS, and it will sit alongside qualifications as a certificated proficiency test that you can take online, okay? And that will go all the way up to C2. That's not been released yet. Check the sound, please. I can hear Alexander. Yeah, no, okay. How much? Well, that depends on the agents, I guess, in the region. We don't control the price that's sold to the end user, but I imagine it's going to be cheaper than qualifications or IELTS. That would be my kind of prediction on the price for the test, the academic test, and well, definitely for the general and the business English test. Contact your local agent, or we can point you in the right direction of that in a moment as well. Okay, so adaptive testing. How does it work? Everybody starts, well, each of the items within a task, within a test, have a difficulty rating, what's called a RASH score. And everybody starts at around B1 level, which is about 58 on our RASH kind of scoring table, okay? So everyone starts there. Now, depending on whether you get the question right or wrong, you then go up and down through the levels. So if you get the first question wrong, it'll give you a lower level difficulty task. Again, go down, go down, go down, go down. But if you keep getting the right, it will go up, for example. And as you can see from the graph there, it can take you all the way up. We have tasks in the bank which go all the way up to C2, but the reporting is only at C1 and above. So no matter what your level, there are tasks there. You will see tasks which are challenging for you. Okay, You can register for Linguaskill, one of the questions coming in now, with one of your agents in your region. And again, we'll point you in the direction of where you can do that for whatever country you're in. Okay, so that's adaptive testing and basically how it works. We build the algorithm. We kind of tell it to choose a multiple choice question at this level. Now, when it gets to the end of the test is when it's confident that the score that you're getting is your score for you as a person. It's a bit complicated, but it works and it does it really well. And so some people see maybe 18 tasks, 18 questions. Some people see 30, for example. It does depend. It does depend on how you answer the tasks as you go through the test. How is it different to Duolingo? Well, the task types in Linguaskill are made by humans, and they are validated and pre-tested and of the highest quality level as comparable to qualifications or IELTS, whereas don't want to diss Duolingo, but most of their tasks are not. They're computer-generated tasks. That's why they have such huge banks. We have spent many years developing this test by hand, by people generating them. And I've been involved in the process of this right from the very beginning with human beings pre-editing, editing these tasks, going through to make sure that they are the highest quality. All right. Okay, so it is aligned to the CFR, naturally, as most Cambridge, all Cambridge tests are. It's part and parcel of what we do. So here you have the table, and as you can see, Linguaskill starts down at pre-A1 and goes up to C1 and above. And it's multi-level. Now, some people ask, well, what's the difference between IELTS and Linguaskill? They're both multi-level. The difference is that IELTS is it's non-adaptive, therefore that the tasks that you see in an IELTS test could be too difficult for you or too easy for you. And I think people that have taken IELTS will be familiar with that there are tasks which are too easy or there are tasks which are incredibly hard. With Linguaskill, it's always around your zone of proximal development. It's always around where you are as a learner, where around you, just a bit more difficult than where you are, just so it can push you and get some scores back. So that's what's so special about adaptive tests compared to fixed multi-level tests. Now, proficiency tests such as qualifications, they are very much the qualification ones are fixed at level. Okay, so you need to know your level when you want to take the tests. You know your C1, you want C1, you take a C1 test, the C1 advanced. But with Linguaskill, you don't know what level you are, fine, take the test and you'll find out. And it doesn't matter what level you are, you don't need to pick and choose the correct test. So that's good also. Right. Yes, it's not free, but it's very, very affordable. Yeah, Linguaskill test is not free, very affordable. Speaking is online, yes. Speaking's online and not face-to-face. And the speaking test is made of, like I said, 5 parts. It's an online test, so you are speaking to a computer. This way it can record the results and get them back, the results back really quick to you, like within the 48 hours. So we can get them shipped to England, back again, back onto your systems, and you can have the results. And the same for writing, obviously, it's online. Now, the speaking tests are as interactive as possible as a face-to-face exam can be. Obviously, it's not the same as a face-to-face when you have collaborative interaction with a fellow student or with the examiner. It doesn't work that way. But the questions are made in a way that it will elicit from you, again, your level. So within the test, the speaking test is not adaptive, but it has multiple levels as it goes through. So by the time you get to the last part, which is the hardest part, you get an opportunity to prove your skills to C1 level. With the academic test, or the kind of certificated Linguaskill, which is coming out soon, that test is going to go up to C2. So it will have a different speaking part to it, which will have C2 tasks built within it at the very end. Okay, but yeah. Can we know our results after the exam at once or not? So results are available, depends on the agent. So the way it works is you go to what's called an agent, and the agent supplies you with a token that you can use, digital token that you enter into the website, our Metrica website, and you take the test. The agent then gets the results through, and as well as you do, but they only get released when the agent wants them to be released as well. So you've got to wait 48 hours if you do all 4 skills at least. So there's a chance that you can have all the results back within a couple of days after taking the test. So it's really quick, really useful, and you can have digital certificates, of course. And I'll come on to what it's used for, what organizations accept it, of course, because that's always a question. What's the point of having a test if no one recognizes it? Linguaskill, trust me, is recognized throughout the world in lots of universities, lots of places. Again, I'll come on to that in a moment. Okay, so you get a test report form. Slightly different to, let's say, a certificate, but then IELTS is a test report form as well. So very similar kind of, but this is, I think, a bit better. This gives you the breakdown of each of the modules that you've taken. So you see listening, reading, speaking, this person took. It gives you your average score, your CFR level, so that you can hand this over to somebody so they can see it. It tells you whereabouts you are on that CFR banding as well, according to the Cambridge English Scale. Maybe I didn't mention that before in the previous slide, but the Cambridge English Scale here, you can see it's linked obviously to the CFR, and there are 20-point bands, and you can be anywhere up there, every single point up on that scale. So quite finite, pinpointing where you are within B2, for example, which is quite useful. Useful for employers, useful for universities, and useful for students as well to understand what their level is. You can see this person here for listening is just over A2, but they're A2. Okay, they haven't reached B1 yet, and they're not halfway through A2 either, so it's quite useful to know. There's also then, next to the results, you see the can-do statements from the Common European Framework of Reference, which says what you can do. And you can understand the main points of short, clear instructions, for example. So again, quite useful as a test report form, which you can hand over to whoever needs to use the test score. All right. And you could do group reporting as well. So you've got individual reporting, and you could do school level group reports. The agent can do this if they want to do it at a whole level. If they want to group people together at university, for example, all students, they can do this. So whatever the need is for a group report, group reports can be done in there. Proctoring, I'm glad someone's brought that up. That's coming up next. Remote proctoring. With exams, high stakes exams, which are used for, let's say, university entrance, immigration, cheating, you imagine, happens quite a lot, or people will attempt to cheat quite a lot. That's why with online tests, we have to have some kind of rigorous standard to ensure that cheating is reduced to an absolute minimum. Okay, and there are many different options for remote proctoring, and it possibly gets a little bit complicated, but a university, for example, could say, I accept Linguaskill, which has been fully live human proctored, invigilated, that means proctored, or it's been fully recorded, and there are different versions of this, and it's up to us to get the university to recognize the particular exam for the particular proctoring, so that students are aware when they go to university what they can use. Now, fully live human proctoring is when, like I'm looking at you now, I would be seeing what you're doing in your room, taking the test, making sure you're not cheating, and if you are cheating, I'd click a button and say, all right, look at the screen, please. Don't look down there. Look up. Yeah, something like that. And there would be an invigilation like there would be in the classroom. Okay. There are other different versions as well. So live, launch, and record, where things are recorded and picked up by AI systems, and yet there's a human in the loop on it as well. So it's kind of a hybrid version of that. And then there's a fully recorded hybrid AI-driven method, which excuse me, which picks up on whether your face goes to the left or right, for example, whether you're spending too long not typing or doing something, and it will notice something which is not quite right and pick up on that and bring it up as a red flag. And then the agent who sells you the exam is responsible then for going in and looking at these red flags and understanding what's wrong, and whether to say this person's cheating or has cheated, because it's past tense now. They have cheated and they don't deserve a certificate anymore. So that's them disqualified from that. And that's their choice to do that at the agent level. So there are many ways to do this. We have centers in Spain, for example, universities who only accept Linguaskill that's been proctored in person. And that's fine as well. I mean, it's entirely up to how the institution wants to accept the examination. That's their choice. We understand that cheating does happen, and if you have fully recorded, for example, with no humans really in that loop, it can be quite difficult. It could be easier to cheat, shall we say. I shouldn't really say that, but that is the reality of it. And so Linguaskill is sold in those situations when it's not so high stakes. It's medium to low stakes. So it's not immigration, it's not university entrance. It's maybe just to prove your level of proficiency for you and your tutor, for example, at university. Nothing else, nothing higher than that, and that would be deemed okay. Yeah, so there are many different options there. So hopefully that kind of goes into some detail about the remote proctoring. I'm just going through the questions again. No AI used in speaking. Yes, there is AI used in speaking for the marking, auto marking, but it's only about 30–40%, which is auto marked currently for speaking. Face-to-face is more worrying. Well, yes, yeah, I mean, yes. Here I am. I mean, I don't know how many people here are in this room, but all I can see is myself in the corner and the presentation, and I'm just talking, and I feel quite comfortable. However, if I'm in a room with a strict Cambridge examiner, shirt and tie, sat there asking questions, I don't know. Would I feel a little bit more nervous? Possibly. But some people don't like talking to computers, so it swings and roundabouts, really. There's advantages, there's pros and cons either way. How many times can you try it? Yeah, that's a good point. I wasn't going to talk about that here, but yeah, you can. You can take it, so like within 6 months, for example, you can increase, if you fail or get not such a good result on a module, because you can't fail Linguaskill, it's impossible to fail. If you don't get such a good score, you can retake it again within 6 months, and that can be combined with your other scores as well. So that's really useful. Don't think all institutions accept Linguaskill as of today. Again, it depends which institutions we're talking about. If it's university entrance, no, not all at the moment, but the certificated Linguaskill which comes along, they will, hopefully. There's no reason why they wouldn't. Every time should be paid for, or yes, I mean, if you don't get the desired results, you've got to pay for the module only that you want to retake again, not the whole exam. So you pay by the module for each of the exams. Is it valid for 2 years like IELTS? Okay, yes, but again, qualifications is only valid for 2 years in most places now as well. Institutions say you must have taken it within the last 2 years. So it's really up to the institution, where it's recognized as an exam, where they accept it. Because 2 years is a long time if you don't speak the language for that time. So yes, that is the case. How to improve my listening skills? Well, that's a whole subject on itself, so I won't go into too much detail at the moment, but listening skills are, I would say, in my opinion, obviously go to courses, listen to, depends, but it all just depends on your level. It's hard to say, actually, so I'm going to stop there before I get into trouble. Because it does depend what level you are. It's almost an impossible question to answer there. Has Linguaskill C2? No, but it will do very soon. It's C1 and above. Where do you see how the name is spelt? Okay. Is that for that? I'm not sure. Do we have this Kazakhstan Linguaskill test office? Yes, I think we do. Yes, Lena, we'll talk about that after this. Give you some details. Oh, there we go. There we go. Someone has already. Preparing the test, and I'll come on to that in a moment. Uzbekistan, Lena, I see you're on screen now. Yes, yep. So we'll pop something in the chat again for Uzbekistan. I think CFR and multi-level is more difficult than TKT. Well, TKT is a teacher test and just about knowledge of teaching, whereas Linguaskill is an English language proficiency, like IELTS and qualifications. So two different things really going on there. You could have A2 level, proficiency level, and then pass TKT. So you know the theory behind how to teach, but your proficiency level in speaking, in writing, etc., is only A2. That's possible. Yes, we will be sending information. Yep. Okay. All right. I don't know if I've got through all of them. Yep. So we check the results. Am I coming to the end of the time, Lena? Yeah. Okay, I'll rush through this then. But we got security checks and malpractice checks in place, of course. We got people who work full-time on Cambridge on this, just to get this in place. We have learning solutions for Linguaskill. We've got an online course, 20-hour course. Again, we'll put some more details up on that. We've got Empower, which is a really great course book, learning material, which has progress tests built within it as well, and it's for each level, so it's a great preparation for Linguaskill. So you can know your progress as you go through the course book and then take the proficiency so you know where you are. And there's a quick guide for test preparation, which we do as well. There's also an online learning course available for Linguaskill, which can be purchased, and we'll send you more information on that. Okay, so what have we got here? We've got write and improve and speak and improve. If you want to know about the automarkers and how good they are and where we're at with them, here is a great place to come and see them. The write and improve page, I absolutely, if you've not been there, you must go there. It's free of charge for a lot of the things on there. And what it does is you put your writing in and it auto checks, auto marks your writing free of charge. Amazing, yes? The auto marker, the algorithm there is actually very similar because it's an older version of what we use in Linguaskill. Okay, so you can see how good the Linguaskill auto marker is for write and improve. The speak and improve, again, very similar. You answer tasks, you go through, it tells you you're speaking automatically. But like I said earlier, the speaking auto marker isn't there yet, so it's not going to be perfect. Okay, this is why we only use it 30, 35, 40% of the time in the real test, where we have the human in that loop coming through to check other things as well. And on the Cambridge website, we have lots of practice material. I showed you the sample test earlier, but there's practice material on there. And lots of information on here about the science of the test. So if I haven't covered everything today, please feel free to go to our website and find out information about the science of the test, if you want, on how it works, how to administer the test, how the results, everything really about the test is available on this webpage. Very informative. Where is it accepted? Well, higher education it's normally accepted at higher education. It's meant for 18-year-olds and above, and there are lots of different cases, global cases across the world where it's been accepted, and this is just growing and growing. Here's just an example of a couple. But I know, for example, in Saudi Arabia and Oman recently, they've just been recognized for hundreds of thousands of candidates taking Linguaskill now for a university for the preparation course. And for teachers as well, I know that teachers, it's recognized for proficiency levels in certain countries as well, because it's obviously it's made for adults, and it's not a high stakes kind of administration of the test. And here's a case study from Spain. University students are using Linguaskill to graduate, to finish their course at university, and for the teacher's master's program. And you must have a certain level to finish, and you need to prove your skills to the world, and that's what Cambridge obviously do best, proving skills to the world. Adult candidates are using Linguaskill for civil service jobs. They demand that students, that civil servants must be at B1 level, for example, in Spain, and there's multiple ways you can prove it, but Linguaskill is recognized for that and used quite a lot in Spain for this purpose. Spearbank also, obviously we've been working with them for years now, and they use it to develop standards and frameworks for recruitment and setting standards and things like this. So again, it's something where we're kind of across the globe with Linguaskill, and considering it's quite a young product. It's used by many more institutions, and you can find out all this information on our website, ministry level, corporate level, higher education level, and here's just a snapshot of some of those. Okay, and I'll stop there and polish off any questions you may have.
I think you've covered everything. Yeah, Darren. I think Cambridge preposition is so great that we definitely don't have enough time all the time to tell about everything we have, unfortunately.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's so there's a multitude of products out there that we do have. The future, I just want to finish by saying, and this is maybe my personal opinion rather than my professional opinion, but the future of language assessment is adaptive, personalized language tests. Whereas anybody who picks up just one test, they pick it up, it knows who you are, and it knows what you're trying to do, and it personalizes that test specifically for you. You want something on business? Fine. You want something on marketing? Fine. You want something on science? Fine. There it is. And it personalizes for you for that particular purpose. That's the future of language assessment. Instant results, fully automarked, and fully remote proctored. You can take it home anytime. You got a job interview tomorrow? Fine. Sit a test tonight. Take it in tomorrow and say, here's my level. Isn't that great? Not having to wait weeks for results. This is absolutely the future of language assessment, people. No question about it. It will just get better and better from here on in.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Thanks a lot, Darren. Hope
All right, you're welcome.
See you next time with
Yep.
your wonderful presentations.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
And now, Matthew Elban. So he is a professional learning and development manager at Cambridge University Press and Assessment. So he's designing and delivering training not only for teaching institutions and ministries of education around the world. And we are happy to have you, Matthew, today. And we do hope that you'll answer all the questions we had yesterday, because lots of teachers were asking about online courses on methodology. Over to you, Matt.
Super. Thanks, Elena. Well, I'll do my best to answer all the questions that come. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the session. Thank you for joining. And as Elena mentioned, this session is all about how you can get better as a teacher. And of course, Cambridge can help you with that journey. And I'll explain what we can do to help you as we go through. I have a question to start with. Who here has followed a recipe before and cooked something? How many of you have got your hands dirty in the kitchen? Yes. Oh, Gulnara, no. You don't cook. Okay, well, don't worry, because I'm going to show you how you can cook something, but also how you can improve yourself and improve your teaching. I love cooking, says Brian. Excellent. Good. All right, a little bit about me, just to introduce myself. I work for Cambridge and I'm talking to you from Cambridge. And I'm a professional learning and development manager, which means that I visit schools and visit teachers and deliver teacher training, a little bit like this session. I'm also the author of this book, From Teacher to Trainer, and some of what I tell you today in this talk comes straight from my book. So if you like it, then check out the book afterwards. But as I mentioned, our goal is, or at least in this talk, our goal is making you a better teacher. And of course, when we choose to cook something in the kitchen, we know what we're trying to aim for. We know what we're trying to cook. When we try to get better as teachers, what are we aiming for? Well, we're aiming for sustained improvements in your teaching knowledge and in your teaching practice. So that you make a change in the classroom or maybe in your planning that has a beneficial effect on your students. We want changes that work for you. So I'm going to tell you a few things in this talk today, but every one of you has different classrooms, different students, you work in a different school, you have different experience, you have different knowledge. So whatever you do has to work for you, and I'll show you how you can do that a little bit later. And finally, we want the changes that you make to have an impact on your students, right? We want it to make a beneficial difference for your students' learning, so that they learn more, or they learn faster, or they learn more efficiently, or they're more motivated, something like that. Somebody's asked where you can get my book. You can get it online, but I'll come to that later when we talk about some of the other Cambridge resources. So just to emphasize what I just said. So the main goal of professional development for teachers is better student learning. This is Savannah Richardson and Gabrielle Diaz-Maggioli making this point. And it's not a new point. This is another quote with the same message, really, that the goal of teacher education should be more effective learning of English by pupils. So we have to kind of keep in mind our students and what our students are learning as we go through this process. And it's a three-stage process, really, that we have some input, that you learn something, maybe in a webinar like this, maybe you read something, maybe you learn something from a colleague or from another teacher, but you learn about some kind of aspect of teaching. You then need to implement it. So you do something in your classroom. And the final stage, the one that we really want, is an impact, that it has an impact on your students and on their learning. So the impact is the one that we're really focusing on. A little bit like when you cook something, right? It's all about the food, it's all about the taste at the end. It's the impact that's important. So in this session, we've got, let's see, about half an hour, 25 minutes. I'm going to take you through what you need to do to prepare, the ingredients you need, a method for getting better as a teacher, and then some serving suggestions. So some examples of how this might look. All right, getting prepared first of all. Now, if you're going to cook something, there are several things that you do to prepare, right? You decide what you want to make. You check how much time you need. You make sure you've got the right tools for the job. You prepare your ingredients and you wash your hands. If you're going to develop as a teacher, what things do you need to do to prepare? Answers in the chat box, and you can use these cooking preparation tips to give you some clues. Shaknoza says costumes. Yeah, you need your apron, don't you? You need to make sure you're dressed the right way. Any other ideas? Okay, maybe decide what to teach or decide what you need to learn, right? Because we're talking about your learning, teacher learning. We're not talking about student learning right now. But yeah, you need to decide what to learn. Understand your students for sure. Natalia, thank you. Identifying the aim, or Maria, identify your goals. That's so important. So if you mentioned aims or goals, then congratulations. Let's see. Someone said that you should wash your hands as well. And I agree. It's always good to wash your hands, isn't it? Schools can be dirty places. Gulnoza says, how much needed? I assume you mean how much time you need. Someone says plan. Absolutely. Okay, lots of really good ideas. Take into account your learners' needs. Super. You guys are good at this. So yeah, first of all, you need to decide on your aims, right? What is it that you are trying to learn? What are you trying to improve about your teaching? The second thing, when it comes to timing, is that you need to plan your time, because improving as a teacher takes time. It takes more time than you might think. And it's not enough just to attend a workshop or attend a webinar like this. You need to plan how you're going to do that implementation of the ideas and how you're going to check for impact as well. So in a lot of research on this, we see that actually it takes teachers several months, maybe 6 months, maybe even a year, to improve their teaching in a way that is sustained. So of course, if somebody teaches you a new activity, if a colleague tells you about a new activity, you can put that activity into your classes in the next lesson. But that doesn't mean that you've really improved your teaching. You've just changed one lesson. So making a lasting change takes longer. And we have to plan that time. Time management, absolutely. The next thing to do is make sure you've got the right environment to improve. And this might not be something that you have control over. If you're not the school principal, or if you're not the school director, if you're not a school manager, then maybe you don't have the right resources to be able to do this. But it's useful to be aware of, I think. Again, there's a lot of research on this. So there's a study here that was done in 2012 and another one in 2014 by the same people. And they found some really interesting results. What they did was compare different types of schools and the environment in those schools, and then see how the school environment affects teachers' development. How does it affect the way that teachers learn and improve? And what they found, and I'm going to try to highlight this on the screen if I can. But what they found, and what this graph shows, is that after 1 year of teaching, it doesn't really matter what kind of school you work in. Everybody improves their teaching after 1 year, of course, because they go from 0 to 1 year's experience, and it doesn't matter what kind of school you work in. But after 1 year, your school environment really affects how much you learn as a teacher. So if you have a look at this line on the bottom, let me see, this line, the red line, that line is the line for teachers who work in a school with an unhelpful environment, a bad environment for learning. And you see that really after 3 years, those teachers stop learning. So they improve in their first 3 years of teaching, and after that, they don't really get any better. It's very different for teachers in good schools. Let me use a different brush for this. So we'll make the good schools purple. The teachers in the good schools are on this line. And you can see that even after 10 years, the teachers who are in a positive environment are still getting better. They are still learning. And that's really important, because you can see after 10 years how much better they are than the teachers in the poorer schools. So really interesting research. And you might be thinking, well, what is a good environment? What does that mean? The answer, is that a good school environment has order and discipline, so that the students behave, and there's a behavior policy in the school. In good school environments, teachers collaborate, so they share ideas, maybe they plan their lessons together, they talk about their problems together, and this is something that you can do. You don't need your school principal to make this happen. You can do this with your colleagues, collaborating together to improve your teaching. Good schools have leadership from the principal, so your manager or your school principal or your head teacher listens to you and supports you and helps you to do a good job. They give you opportunities to learn. So maybe you have opportunities to attend a webinar like this, or maybe you have a workshop in your school. Maybe you have the chance to go and observe another teacher. These kinds of opportunities to get better. Positive school environments have a culture where teachers are trusted and respected, which is really important. And finally, there's positive teacher evaluation. So if somebody comes to your class to watch you teach, they come there to help you get better. They're not coming there to tell you all the things that you did wrong, which is often what happens, isn't it, when we get observed. Demira says, equipment's also important. And that's true, Demira. It's more important for your teaching and your learners' learning. So for your learning as a teacher, you don't need lots of fancy equipment. The best resource is probably you and your colleagues. So you can get better as a teacher just by working with your colleagues, discussing your lessons, observing each other. Absolutely, equipment's important for your teaching, but not necessarily for your learning. I hope that makes sense. Okay, 2 more things. When we cook, we prepare our ingredients, right? And we need to do that when we learn as teachers as well. I'm going to talk more about the ingredients in just a moment. And finally, I think it's good to wash your hands, and somebody else said this as well. So we're hygienic people here, which is good to see. Okay, people talking about handouts, flashcards, and so on. Just a reminder, guys, I'm talking about your learning. I'm talking about you learning more about teaching and getting better at teaching. So I'm not really talking about the learning that your students do. I hope that's clear. All right, let's talk about the ingredients. What do you need? So I said to Demira that you don't need lots of high-tech equipment to get better at teaching. But what do you need? Well, you need 2 classrooms, if possible, with students in them. You need a little bit of expert input. You need some local flavorings. And if possible, you need an assistant or more than one assistant. Let's look at this in more detail. So the reason I say that you need 2 classrooms is that you need one classroom to notice teaching, to look at what people do when they teach, and to notice what happens. So this might be a class that is a demo class that a teacher trainer gives for you. It might be a class that is taught by one of your colleagues. So maybe you go and watch one of your colleagues teach. Maybe you watch a class on video. Maybe you find a class on YouTube or something like that and watch somebody teaching. You can do this for your own teaching as well. But of course, when we're teaching, when we're in the classroom, you're thinking about the students and you're thinking about what you need to do to teach. So it's quite difficult then to notice your teaching and to kind of look on it. You could record yourself on a video and watch that, and that can be very useful. But the best option, I think, is often to watch somebody else teach. The other classroom that you need is your classroom, and that's for practicing teaching. So you can't get better at teaching without teaching. That's obvious, isn't it? So you need a class, you need to be able to teach students. It could be your real classroom, or it could be like a classroom that's just set up where you practice some things with your colleagues, just to practice the way that you do it before you do it for real. So this group of ingredients, I'm calling the practical ingredient, okay? So we need a practical ingredient when we want to learn something as teachers. And the reason that we need this is because teaching is something that we do with our brains, of course, but we also do it with our bodies. It's something that is quite a physical task, okay? So when you're in the classroom, you probably don't think about where you're standing, where you're moving. All of these decisions that you make automatically. But it's a little bit like driving a car or learning to dance, that when you're driving a car, you do it automatically. When you can dance, you don't think about, oh, I need to put my hand here or I need to put my foot there. It comes automatically. Good teaching comes automatically as well. And that's why you have to do it to get better at it. Kumish is asking about macro teaching. Do you mean micro teaching, Kumash. So micro-teaching is when you teach a very small group of students or maybe of your colleagues, and you're focusing just on one technique or one thing. This can be super useful. If you can get a group of colleagues together to practice some micro-teaching, then yeah, for sure, do that because it will really help you. Okay, the second ingredient that I told you about was expert input. And what I mean by this is teaching terminology, so the kind of specialist words that we use to talk about teaching, some theories of learning, teaching methodologies, insights from research. This stuff I'm calling the professional ingredient, okay? Now, this is important because we want to get the best results for our learners. So we want to know what the best methods are, what's the research saying. We want to learn how we can find out more. So if you know the way to talk about teaching, the way to talk about teaching concepts, then you can go and research more by yourself. We want to learn from people in different contexts. That's something that we can do now with the internet. You can learn from teachers all around the world and gain different insights into how they do things. And crucially, I mentioned before that every classroom is different, every teacher is different. So you need to know how to adapt things to make them work for your classroom. And that means that you need to understand the underlying principles behind things. So expert input is really important. And this is where Cambridge can help you. So Cambridge has a huge range of resources to provide you with expert input and give you these theories of learning, insights from research, all the terminology that you need. And it could just be for you to get better at teaching, or it could be to help you pass an exam like TKT, or to do well on the CELTA, or even the Delta as well. So we have, first of all, our Cambridge books. So you see my book there on the left-hand left-hand side of the screen. But we also have a huge range of handbooks for teachers, pocket books for teachers, and you can find out more about these at cambridge.org/PLD. I understand that Elena is going to give some advice in her follow-up email about where you can access these books, because it depends on where you live, but your local bookshop should be able to get hold of these for you. Books, of course, you have to pay for, but we have a lot of stuff that you don't have to pay for, that we provide for free, apart from this wonderful conference. So first of all, you could go to cambridge.org/insights, and you can download a whole range of what we call white papers. So each white paper is like a very, very short book, and it just focuses on one topic. It gives you the research on that topic, and then it tells you how you can apply it in your classroom. So super useful. Lots of up-to-date topics, and all of these are written by real ELT experts like Scott Thornbury or Philip Kerr or Sylvana Richardson. At cambridgeassessment.org.uk, you can find a ton of research on language learning and language testing, and we publish Research Matters twice a year with all of our studies, free to read, free to learn from. And at cambridgeinternational.org, we also have a huge range of information sheets like this one on active learning to give you everything you need to know about key topics in teaching. So there's a lot of stuff available for free, but of course, we've got the books as well. And Elena mentioned that there were lots of questions yesterday about online courses. So we've got online courses for you, for teachers, to help you improve your teaching. You can find out more about these at cambridge.org/PLD again, but I can tell you a little bit about them here. So we've got 2-hour modules. So a small, like a mini course that will take you 2 hours, and each one of these focuses on key topics such as using projects with teenagers, developing speaking skills, developing listening skills, developing critical thinking, things like this. All topics that will help you if you're preparing for TKT or if you're doing CELTA, something like that. They begin at any time, so they're self-study courses. So whenever you're ready to start, then you can buy one of these courses and you can start. And it includes a practical task for you to do in your classroom so that we make sure that you're applying what you've learned from the course. There's a list on your screen here, but this is just a selection. There's a huge range of courses, I think up around 50 courses, around 50 two-hour courses. So there's a lot there to keep you busy. What I will say is that we are currently reviving these courses, revamping them, and the current selection will only be available until July next year. So from July next year, we'll have a completely new selection. So if you want to explore one of these or do one of these, then I recommend that you start in the next 2 months, 2 or 3 months or so that you get the full benefit of that time. I'll move on now, but if you have questions, put them in the Q&A box, and I will come back to this at the end and share what I know. The third thing that I mentioned, the third ingredient that we need is some local flavorings. And this is all about making the learning tailored for your situation, for your classroom, for you and for your students. Take a look at the two teaching contexts on the screen. What differences do you think the teachers in these environments would have to work with? What are the teaching differences between these two classrooms? Okay, thanks, Makina. Yeah, we've got a lecture and a lesson. What do you think would be, okay, teacher-centered versus learner-centered? Yeah, that's a good point. We've got a big group and a small group. So what kinds of things are easier with a big group, and what kinds of things are easier with a small group? Shaknoza says the first one's very serious. Doesn't need to be serious. I mean, the picture looks quite serious, doesn't it? But he could be telling them a joke. He could be a funny lecturer. Yeah, so the second classroom looks more like there's some group work happening, right? So maybe the students have the chance to talk to each other, and it doesn't look like the students have much of a chance to talk to each other in the first picture. Yeah, so the teacher's talking a lot, as Igor says. And the second one's more interactive. Time, yeah, who is this? Sorry, the chat box is moving quickly, but somebody said that the teacher in the second picture has more time with each student, so it's easier for her to give them feedback. So these are just two differences, but you can see that these different classrooms have very different needs, and the teacher probably needs quite different skills to work within them. So it's important that what you learn as a teacher benefits your teaching context and benefits you and your students. So this is all about the characteristics and needs of the teaching context, your needs, your beliefs, your experiences, and we need to bridge the gap between the training that you receive or the learning that you do and the classroom that you teach in. So this is what I call the personal ingredient. So we've now got a practical ingredient, we've got a professional ingredient, and we've got a personal ingredient. And we need these three things for your learning as a teacher to have an impact on your students. So whatever you do, if you attend a course, if you buy one of our online courses, if you read something, if you read a Cambridge book, if you watch a Cambridge video on YouTube, you need to make sure that you get these three elements. Cambridge gives you the professional stuff, but you need to make sure that you take it into your classroom for the practical side, and you need to make sure that you are adapting it for your context and for yourself. That's the personal side. So I'll take you through the method quickly because we're running out of time. The first thing to do is to mix the practical and the professional. So let's say that you attend a webinar like this one, or maybe you watch something online. You've got your input there. You've got your noticing, and then you've got your teaching terms and your insights, but you haven't yet practiced it. You haven't yet put it into your classroom, and you haven't yet got the personal side. So step 2 is to make some changes in your classroom, make some changes to your teaching. And you have to plan this. You have to change, you have to plan what will happen, what you will change, when you will change it, and you have to plan for any problems that might come up and think of some solutions. Let me give you an example. This is from a teacher who wanted to implement CCQs in her classroom, concept checking questions. This is for teaching vocabulary or grammar. So her plan was to write CCQs in her lesson plans for the vocabulary that she was going to teach. And then she thought of a problem. What if a piece of vocabulary comes up in my lesson and I haven't written the CCQs for it because I didn't plan for it? Well, her solution was to just ask a CCQ about the grammar, like, is this word talking about the present or the past, or is it formal or informal? And then maybe think about other CCQs after the lesson. And in this way, she could gradually get better at thinking of these questions on her feet. So because of that, because of this planning side, we now have the personal ingredient in place. The last thing that we need to do is put it into practice and actually do it in the classroom. So this is all about making changes in your classroom and doing it over a period of time, right? Not just in one lesson, but in every lesson over weeks and months. And see how it goes. Is it successful? Is it not successful? Maybe it's going to be difficult at first. Maybe you forget. Maybe something unexpected happens, but keep trying it to keep working out the best way to make it work for you. So this implementation phase is kind of a cycle. It happens again and again and again. You need to keep doing it. And then finally, because of this, we now have green ticks across the board. We've got our 3 ingredients. We've got practical, professional, and personal. And this should mean that our students are learning more as a result. The last thing to do is to just check that this is working, check that your students are learning more. And the best way to do that is to ask them. You know, you can say, like, I've changed this in my lessons. Did you notice? Is it helpful for you? Is there anything you'd like me to change further? Ask your students, maybe ask a colleague to come to your class to see if they can notice a difference. Lots of ways that you can check for impact. So you can ask, as I say, ask a colleague to come, ask students, get samples of student work to see if they're improving in their writing, maybe in their speaking as well. You could record them, or keep a journal and see if you notice the difference yourself. Maybe you feel more confident. And hopefully then we have our impact, which is what we want. So just finally, to give you some examples of teachers who have done this. This is Yuri. He attended the training session on concept checking questions. He made a plan to implement those questions in his teaching. And then after 2 months, he invited a colleague to come to his class to see if it was working and to give him some advice on how to improve. This is Denise. She took the Delta course. She took it over 9 months. So she had that long-term development that we talked about. So she's making changes to her teaching all the time, and she's getting feedback from her tutors as she does this. Of course, this is something that happens on the CELTA course as well, if you take CELTA. And as part of her assignments on the course, she's constantly thinking about her teaching and reflecting on her teaching. And this is a group of teachers who get together once a month to read something and then implement it in their teaching. So the reading is the easy part. Changing their teaching is more difficult, and that's why they work together to think about how they can make changes, and they observe each other's classes to see if it's working. So all of these teachers have ideas that you might be able to try out in your school, and I hope that you'll give them a go. Just to finish, what we're talking about here is better student learning through your learning. So when teachers learn, we hope that students learn better as well. But you need to do some preparation. Make sure you have those 3 ingredients: practical, personal, professional, and then allow time. Make sure that you allow time for this to have an impact, because it does take time. Okay, it's 1 minute past 2, so I'm a minute late. I hope that's okay, Elena. Here are the references, and I'm sure that Elena will share the slides with you in the follow-up email, so you can just click on these and then get the further reading that I've referenced here. I hope that's helpful. Thank you so much. Thank you for attending. And if you have any questions, I will try and answer them now.
Okay, there are some questions, I mean, regarding the pricing on courses, if they are free or not. That's a typical question.
Okay, so the courses are not free, Lena. They are quite affordable, however. So the price, I believe, is £15 sterling or $20 US, if I'm not mistaken. But the price, that will depend on your local distributor as to how much they cost, but quite affordable. If you can't afford that, and I know that not everybody can afford that, then I would suggest you check out the Cambridge YouTube channel, because we have a ton of excellent sessions on there that you can watch for free.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. So Matt, thanks a lot. I think your presence made this event really a great success. Your enthusiasm and professionalism helped make our time together with our dear teachers both very useful and very productive. I was really impressed by statistics about school. That's really great. And
So
I mean,
right?
yes, very interesting. And probably you could see lots of comments from teachers how true it is. I mean, when the environment helps you to become the teacher you want to be. And really, Cambridge can help with that. So, dear participants, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend your webinars. Just to remind you that all the materials will be sent in a follow-up email. There will be a certificate, a link to all the resources, and everything. Don't worry about that. So Matt, a couple of seconds, I mean, to enjoy lots of thanks in the chat box, right?
Thanks to you for coming and
Yeah.
attending. Yeah. And
Yes.
thanks to you, Elena, for the invitation.
Thanks a lot. I will definitely ask for more. Yeah. Okay, so I'm ready to stop now. Thanks a lot. Everybody have a lovely evening and see you next time.
Bye, everyone.